welcome back to another episode of Chanel in the City. I'm your host, Chanel Omari, and we have such an amazing, exciting guest, one of our favorite guests, and she's back on the podcast. She's a New York City legend. She's also the book author of the amazing book, my favorite book, Make It Nice, okay? And she's an entrepreneur and, of course, the iconic housewife of New York City. My favorite. Don't tell anybody. Please. Please welcome back our dear friend, Dorinda Medley.
Dorinda Medley, Dorinda Lynch, Dorinda Sincala, and now just Dorinda.
Oh, I love that. Like Madonna, just Dorinda. I love it.
It's such, for the name my mother gave me, which is, I remember going to kindergarten, my mother saying, do not let them give you, no matter what, you hand this note to the teacher. And it said, do not give her any nicknames. So I never had a nickname. The only person that's always and ever called me a nickname is my friend Heather Kersner, who calls me Doris. And she's my friend from London. So it's funny, I allowed her that, but everyone else calls me Dorinda. And there has never been a Dory, Doris, Doe, nothing. Maybe Dorito, Michael Street.
Last name either, like no Lynch, no Medley. It's always Dorinda,
well,
right?
Dorinda's such a there's not that many Dorindas, although I did go to the gas station last week and there was a saleswoman behind the counter and she had a name tag on just named Dorinda. I was like, really? Because I've never seen it yet. So of course I had to have an hour conversation with her about that.
I love that.
I just want to preface it, everyone, just so we don't get on the run. I'm not claiming to be some great writer. Okay. I am an author, which is enough for me. And I wanted this book to be a conversation with me. So, for all the critics out there that Boston Globe is like, you're reading the tease. I'm like, I don't really have writing ability. I'm a great talker.
Right.
I'm a great story giver. I'm like, that's why I loved reading the Bible for so many years, because they were all stories. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. You're a great storyteller, and you're a compelling storyteller, I feel.
Well, thank you.
And a lot of so here we have the book. We're going to get straight into it, because Make It Nice. First of all, I love the title. It's so you. And
what else could it be? For God's sakes, that's gonna be probably on my gravestone. She made it nice.
Well, I was gonna also, I don't want to ask the stupid question, like, because I'm a Housewives junkie fan, as you know, so I know that you say it in the show, but what inspired you to write the book now, and why this title?
Well, as you know, I was put on pause. The new word for being let go. And I love it because it's very gentle, isn't it?
Thank you, by the way, Dorinda, because I think I'm going to start, I only had one season, but I'm going to start using it. I've been on pause for 10 years. Thank you very much.
You know what the thing about being put on pause is? It's sort of a double-edged sword. So it's sort of like, we appreciate you for what you've done. We're not ready to let go with you. You want to keep your relationship, but you're going to have, you're going to be off indefinitely. Okay. So it's like the boyfriend that wants to keep seeing you at midnight. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, what a great analogy. I love that. Dorinda-isms. We need another book. You need to write a whole book on just dating and breakup advice, I feel.
Yeah, maybe. But, I was put on pause. The world was on pause. I found myself back at Bluestone Manor. And, just like everything in my life, which has been, so lucky, when, it truly is that simple saying, one door closes, another one opens. And I think that's something that you actually have to make happen. I think there's really in life, I really do believe in the half glass full, half glass empty. And I know a lot of people like that. And, I just thought, okay, this is real. We are on pause, reset. Now what? Because even after Richard passed, I remember someone saying to me, you should take 6 months off. I'm like, if I take 6 months off, I will be so depressed because I'm not good with idle hands. I just have to keep it moving. It's sort of, I think it's really a survival thing for me. Not everybody's like that. I have a daughter that's much more, academic and esoteric about it. She really knows how to dig deep. And I don't know if that's a little bit growing up, Chanel. I grew up in a very big ethnic family. You fell and broke your ankle. You're like, I'm fine.
Same.
Don't worry. Everything's good.
I think people, by the way, and that's in the book, forget that you come from an ethnic background, right? Like, You
Very
also,
ethnic.
can you kind of talk a little bit about that? Because that's so, you're like, because we're similar, because I'm the same way as you. It's always survival for me. It's never,
Yes.
it's go, go, go.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think everybody, that's why I wanted to write the book, which is so interesting because people only know me from the Housewives. They think that's where I began and that's where I ended. And the thing is, and not only just from the Housewives, but visually and the way I live now, you know, that's been 50 years in the making. You know, I grew up in a very, very middle class, very Italian, Polish, religious, followed. I mean, I grew up with life-size statues in my house that I used to, you know, you saint this for this, saint that. I mean, there wasn't a saint that I couldn't go to. I mean, someone you had, I remember one day, I had pink eye. I was like, don't worry, just pray to Saint Lucy, you'll be fine. Now go to school. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, I do. Because my mom, I swear, you know Dorinda, me a little bit. My mom's the same way.
Yeah.
She's like, and she was Catholic. She converted to Judaism, so she was all about, Christianity,
Well,
Catholic, right?
yeah, but you know, the Italians and the Polish and the Jewish people are very similar. And I grew up, but you know, we lived in sort of a very ethnic Italian Polish. You know, there were sort of the rich people, the doctors, and then the workers, which in the Berkshires were the Italians, the Polish, and the Jewish people. And we used to have these fantastic Christmases where we had the menorah and I mean, you're like, yay!
Yeah. You
Yay!
even did it. Yeah, I think you did it also at Bluestone Manor, right? In one of the episodes
Yes.
as well. In the past, you had the menorah, you had the Christmas lights. It was so cool.
I'm very inclusive like that. I know we're living in a world now where everything is really, you know, we're having very difficult conversations, very good conversations. But you know, growing up in my family, they just were working all the time. It was just like, come one, come all. You know, do what you got to do when you're outside the house, but just come and eat.
Yes.
We'll make it all better if you just put down a lasagna and some almond cake, right?
Yeah. Just eat something. Your depression will
Just
go
eat
away.
something,
I'm like,
you'll
Mom,
be better.
it's not that easy. Like,
Yeah, right. So I think it was time to just let people know that, you know, I'm not this girl from the Upper East Side that just sort of started here. It was a long path to get here. It was based on a lot of hard work, a lot of hopes and dreams, a lot of successes, you know, on my fair amount of failures, and sort of really based on the idea that you have to believe in yourself first and foremost. And, you know, it truly is like that whole thing you say you have to put your mask on first before you put anyone else's, because it really, at the end of the day, things are up to you. And I think I learned that early on. And that was from my mother. My mother was like, oh, look after yourself, because, you know, it's good to be kind and good, but you know what? Everybody will come and take, and you got to make sure you have enough for yourself, you know. And my mother's a very strong woman, and she just taught me so much about that, you know, to be both generous, but also be able to not lose herself. You know what I mean? Hold on to her identity, hold on to her thoughts, her dreams, her beliefs. And she really did help me with that. I think my mother's one of the strongest women I've ever met.
That's amazing, because I think
and that's not just because I love her because she's my mother, just watching the way she maneuvered. You know, it was that, I don't know if it happened to you, because I don't know how you grew up economically, but I had a moment about 2 summers ago where we used to go to this place called Mystic, Connecticut. And I used to love it. And I just remember it being so fantastic and big, and Mystic, Connecticut, the Star Hotel and the swirly thing, because my mother made it out to be in the vending machines. And, you know, when I went back, I kind of wish I never went back, because it was just really a tiny little motel with a flashy, cheesy star and a terrible pool. But, you know, my mother just really taught us to just be excited about everything and look forward to things and be appreciative, you know? So I love that about her. She truly is a glass half full woman.
Is she so proud of your book and all the accomplishments?
Well, all I know, Chanel, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure if she's read it, but she does say to me every time I go over, I love the pictures.
Oh, that's important. I love the pictures too. I want to show the audience, because you guys got to get a copy right now. I mean, this book is so beautiful.
Thank you, Chanel.
You even see the baby picture of
oh my God, look at that head of hair.
Look at that. And with your mom, and you look like your mom, actually.
I do. And look how, you know what, I can't get over with my mother. My mother just had a baby 5 days ago. Look how coiffed she is.
I know, I'm so skinny.
I mean,
I'm like,
for God's sake, I could barely get out of bed and brush my teeth.
And look, look at young Dorinda over here. I love these young photos, because we never really get to see your you know, the journey of, like you said, what got you here. So I think that's so incredible. And then there's
well,
your
I
wedding.
think, I wanted people to follow the breadcrumbs because it's, people kind of heard about my life and heard about Richard and heard about London but now they can follow the breadcrumbs and kind of understand me. Okay, now I get it. Now I understand why she loves entertaining. Oh, that someone even said to me the other day, I really didn't get that Richard wasn't Hannah's father. I'm like, no, I was only married to Richard, 6 years. So Hannah has a father that's very private and very Scottish. And, there's a whole life and many lives. Each chapter, they say in the book, every 6 years, I sort of had a change that forced me to grow a little bit more, kind of forced me to go back into the cocoon, like a, monarch butterfly and like re-cocoon and then get stronger and come out. But I really did. And I got to tell you, there's one thing I have to say about, having this past year, not just for the pause, because that's life. You have a job and you don't have a job and everything comes to an end. But being during the pandemic and going through COVID and really, really buckling down and becoming more introspective is that, there are these great learning curves in any situation. Like I feel stronger than I've ever felt. And I feel like I access freedom now. And that's a beautiful thing for a woman to have access to freedom to go where I want, do what I want, take the jobs I want, be at peace. Like this morning, I was like, I'm not going to get out of bed till 9:00. I know that sounds crazy and like a simple task, but when you've been sort of a mother, a wife, a working person, always on, like a cat on a hot tin roof, it is nice just to have freedom, financial, spiritual, physical. And it's not based on having to find a man, having to do this, having to, although I love the nurturing process and I do hope one day that I'm companioned with someone again, that would be great. But that's not sort of the focus anymore. Like I'm the focus.
And you know what? I love that. That's why I love the new branding. Dorinda, I'm here for it because you help me and a lot of women, whether we're young, middle-aged, whatever. This book has helped you teach us to believe in ourselves and not rely on a thing, on a man, on a network, on a career to define who we are. And I think that's why we gravitate, or at least I gravitate towards you a lot, because I've gone through that and I didn't know how to get out of that darkness until I read this book.
Aww.
And you've been a good friend to me. You've been the first housewife that gave me a chance on my podcast. You've always supported me. You've always been kind to me and accepted me for who I was. And I said to myself, that's the woman I want to be, because how else are we all going to survive?
That's it. Because you know what? Things change. People change. Life is like the weather. It rains one day and it sun shines again. And you think when you're in the sun, this is great. And then all of a sudden you're like, there's stormy clouds. And you always have to be prepared to buckle down the hatches and take care of yourself, because we all want to believe in forever. I thought I figured it out with Richard. I was like, look at me meeting Richard Medley. Hannah's going to college. We are going to live this wonderful life. He loves me so much. And then they're like, your husband's dying. I'm like, what? And, instead of buckling to it and kneeling to it or being angry about it or living in the past, you just have to sort of place that, be so thankful. Like my mother said to me, if Richard Medley came to you 8 years ago when you met him, because I was only married 6, but knew him for 8, and said, I'm going to be with you for 8 years. During that 8 years, I'm going to love you more than anyone. I'm going to raise your child like my own, and we're going to have the best time, and you're going to know love. She said, would you have taken him? I said, well, of course. She goes, well, you got your 8 years. Now let's focus on that. Let's not focus with what you're not going to have. Let's focus. And it really, your life is about perspective.
That's so powerful.
I think people get so stuck in mistakes or there's such a huge, I was thinking about it the other day. There's such a huge, huge, huge push to always be perfect. Like we are no longer, in order to grow, in order to be colorful, in order to express, you don't always get it right. I bask in the mistake. You guys know me as a thing. When I'm good, I'm great. When I'm bad, I'm terrible. But you know what? I'm an interesting character. But at the end of the day, my intention is good.
Yes.
I am righteous to a fault. I don't like injustice, and I will call it out. I'll never forget the time when I saw Diana Ross in that movie 100 years ago when she's with the guy and she's yelling out in the crowd. It's an old movie.
Yes, it's
what was that with that beautiful like man that was in Star Wars? And they start singing, "Do you know where?" I'm that woman. I'm the woman in the crowd that's like, "That's not right." But I love that about me. But with that comes a lot of criticism. But you know
why
what?
do you think so, by the way? Sorry to interrupt. Why? Why do you think it comes with that? If you're so willing to admit your wrongs and your rights, which we know about you, which is why we love you, in general,
because people want to feel good about themselves, I think, by not accepting. Why do you think most people love watching The Housewives? They watch it because they have been there themselves, but now they can not take ownership for it and put it on the Housewives. They want us to be that person, because the truth is, when we're dull and we're all getting along, it's boring.
Right. It's like they
feel
better about them. Right.
Life is messy. There is not a person out there. Haven't you ever had a moment? I just had it recently. Well, not recently. It was like a year and a half ago, right before COVID, where I was at Omar's, and I remember this Catholic couple at Sacred Heart. I just admired them when I was a single mother. I was like, why does she have it right? Look, a beautiful, beautiful husband, belongs to the Maidstone, all the kids with the preppy bows in their hair. I'm like, wait a second. I'm living on the Upper East Side, and, two better with Hannah to be, not that her father was very present, but, I'm like, they just had that picture perfect Upper East Side thing. They always sent out the Christmas card. I could never get my shit together. Right. You know what I mean?
I'm the same way. I'm like not the girl for thank you notes or cards. I'm just like.
Well, they would always have the perfect one. Like in September, they'd be like, I have to go and do my photograph for my Christmas card. I'm like, Christmas card? What? You know what I mean? So I ran into the guy. Now it's been years. Her daughter's like my daughter's age, 27. And he's with a very young girl. And I'm thinking, so I go up and I say, where is Pam? Oh no, we broke up. We broke up years ago, and I married my dental hygienist. Okay, which is no problem. But the thing is, then when I researched it, I realized that it wasn't a great marriage. It was all on paper. It was all the Christmas card, but it was all the frosting and not the cake. I'm about the cake. Yes. I don't even need frosting. Just cut me open and look at the cake. I'm good with that.
I love that. And I know that's challenging sometimes because you're bearing it all, because we're going to get to the point. I was going to ask you, like, with writing the book, were there any challenges for you? Just writing something and facing it.
I'll tell you what I thought, what was amazing. I mean, obviously writing about Richard was the first time I wrote about his process. Everybody knew Richard afterwards. And it's very easy when someone dies to only turn them into an effigy and like to only remember them in that light in the world. But to actually revisit Richard during that time of sickness, and then you realizing, wow, that was a really tough time in my life. It was really difficult. And I was very proud of my family, my stepchildren and Hannah. And I actually called them and said, thank you for being, I don't think I ever thanked you for how strong you guys were as a family unit. And the other thing that was really difficult, and I couldn't even read it in my Audible, was talking about my grandparents. Because it's not that I devalued them, but somehow I had to place them in a life that no longer existed for me. So my very ethnic grandparents haven't really fit in my life today. And when I revisited them, I was like, my God, I loved them so much. And it made me just miss them. It made me miss them on every level. The comfort they gave, the safety, the warmth, the food, the religion, the absolute devotion they had. Ethnic families, we have a common thread. We have a devotion to each other. We really do.
We really do. It's like we want to make our family happier before.
Well, the community is everything. We're much more dispersed as a community now, but you didn't ever not see your grandmother. I mean, you didn't. I mean, you just didn't. I don't think I went a week without.
Raised by your grandmother, right? Or with your mom, right?
Well, I wasn't raised by, but she lived down the road, so I would go over whenever I wanted. Yeah. I mean, her house was my house. You know what I mean? And my grandma that lived in New Jersey, she lived for our visits, and we lived to see her. If I closed my eyes and you put my grandmother's smell in the room, I could identify it.
Totally know what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then you forget about it, but as you're writing it, I understand why you took it in.
Yeah, it made me bawl. It's like, God, I don't think I've really cried over my grandparents since I was a sophomore in college, because so much life has happened. Right?
Totally. I get it. Yeah. Because same thing with me, but
they wouldn't even know me.
They don't even, right. They don't even, that's the sad part too. I'm sure you're feeling is like, wow,
they wouldn't even know me. I remember when, oh, sorry. I
Okay.
remember when my grandmother said, "You've become my Polish grandmother. You've become the women I used to work for." It was so, like, it wasn't a compliment. It was so sad. And I could cry about it. And I wasn't even proud of it. I was like, I'm disgusted with myself. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to be Dorinda Sinkala to her. But to her, as an ethnic Polish woman that came over and, used to sell pantyhose, turn pantyhose into dolls on the Brooklyn Bridge to make money, I was like everything.
Wow. I didn't even know that. You see that? Like, that's a hustle right there. Like, you've worked.
Oh, my grandmother was a hustler.
That's amazing. So you learned from the best. Like, you learned to be an entrepreneur as a woman. I mean, how
Yes.
was it during those times? Do you feel, as a female, as a woman, that you had a struggle to have a voice back then as much as now, or different times?
It was so different. And, we didn't, that was in the forefront, but I've always been, I was always a mover and shaker. My mother talks about it all the time. She's like, in my day, they used to have phone cords, the ones you used to plug in. And my mother said that I was always getting in trouble because I would stretch that thing, because I was always making plans, always maneuvering, always trading, always turning. Like, the hustle has been, I was born with the hustle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no matter, I can pivot, and I'm very good at pivoting. I think it's very important to pivot, especially as a woman, because I see so many times, I just was with someone that just, gets stuck about someone. And maybe it's sometimes perceived as cold. Maybe it's sometimes perceived as not caring, but I don't believe in trying to, like, belabor something that's not real anymore. Like, because it's damaging. I'm not saying you shouldn't mourn things. You shouldn't take learning curves from them. But I feel bad when women just get stuck and they can't pivot.
I agree. And then that's why I feel like we can learn from you, because it's funny. I'm going through therapy now, and I was going to ask you for mental health, because my therapist uses cognitive therapy. And I know that you write in the book about moving on a lot and coping that way. I think that's a brilliant way, because you're right. Being stuck isn't going to help you get out of the situation. Right?
But you know what I'm going to say? That people love to talk to me about grief, and I'm very, very careful about how to talk about it, because grief is such a thing. Like, my family, my children, stepchildren handled it very different than me. Grief is such a grief, life, rejection. Everybody has to handle it the way that's best for them. I'm a huge believer in therapists and people to help you through that. I think suffering alone is terrible. But I'm a talker, so I use the whole world as therapy. I used CVS ladies, the gas station attendant, my friends, the bartender at Live Lou. I mean, if you'll listen, I'll talk to you. Okay.
And I'm sure
that's my way of dealing with it.
Yeah, no, but that's honest, and that's great, because some people can really actually cope by talking to people. Even, I mean, don't you think writing the book was a bit therapeutic for you during the process?
Unbelievably. And you know what? I'm going to say this without sounding like a narcissist. I was proud of myself. I was like, Dorinda, you have done some crazy shit. Okay.
Yes, Queen. You have to be proud of yourself. Yes.
Yeah. And, I think it's only like, I do think there's only great things ahead. I think that, it's a really interesting thing to walk through the world now. And for me, because I'm straddling that old world and new world as a woman. You got to remember, 60s, we were still just on the curve of that feminist thing. Like, the feminism was wear a push-up bra, speak gently, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not saying my mother was that, but my mother was like, oh my God, your father's coming home. Hold on, kids. She put on her lipstick and, that was the era, right?
Yes. Now it's like,
your father's coming home.
Now you're like a feminist if you, like, scream at men.
Yeah. And then, you straddle. So I'm stuck in both worlds a little bit. So, but I've learned to cope. So I think that, it is so true. So I think that I've grown a lot. And I think I suffered through it? No, because I managed through it. What I did to not get too engaged in a lot of things that were maybe bad happening. I was always very careful. Like, the minute I saw any signs of someone being inappropriate, I would either cry or slip away.
Wait, I think that's a good. Actually, I was going to ask you for your advice. That happened to me the other day. You know what I did? I felt so awkward. I cried, and it helped. It worked.
It worked.
Right?
I would either cry or slink away somehow.
So you were like, yeah, sorry, go on. Sorry.
No, I did that once. Once I was at a dinner at this place called The Dove. This is a true story. And I was with someone that was older. He was at the time older. I think he was like 34 and I was like 24. And I'm thinking, and he was a Citibank executive, which back then was really a big deal. Not in like the commercial side, like in the real big building side. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a great date. And he said the most inappropriate things to me at The Dove. And I'm thinking, I think I'm going to have to do some bad stuff after dinner for what I had no idea that this meal entailed all these extras. I just thought I was going to go to The Dove. I was like, hey, so I'm going to go to the bathroom. I literally went to the bathroom and left. I left without my coat.
Wow. Yeah. And you say something also in the book, and you've told me this, like, when we've hung out, like, always know how to when to leave a party. And that always stuck with me. You've always said that. You said, always know when to leave a party. And it's such great advice. I can't tell you. Talk to us about why, like, with your experience. Like,
well, because the few times I've overstayed at a party or I haven't gone with my intuition, it always fails me. It's intuition. Like we've all known when we stay too late at a party, it's never worked out well.
Yep.
We all know when we've stayed in relationships too long, it's never worked out well. Everybody is gifted with, my mother would call it the Holy Spirit. Other people call it intuition, their gut. Especially as women, I think sometimes women don't follow their intuition or their gut so well. They make excuses, and they wait too long, And I think if we can really tune into that intuition and that gut, and I think that's something you get as you get older. I don't have the same sort of embarrassment about things. Like if I don't want to do something now, I'm like, no. And I didn't even say give it. I used to give a long explanation. I can't do it because my arm fell off, and my grandmother died for the 19th time. And I would make up every excuse.
My dog ate my homework.
Yeah, I did think you, but it was like that. Whereas now I'm just like, I'm not comfortable with that. And if people aren't comfortable with your discomfort, shame on them.
Yes.
Shame on them.
It's very hard for people to say no. What do you mind us asking?
Because they don't want, because it's selfish.
Yeah.
It's selfish. And I said that to someone recently that was pushing and pushing. I said, you're not taking the social cues that I'm giving you. And I've given them to you in all ways I can. Now I'm just going to tell you, I don't want to do it. And now you're going to be hurt, but you're pushing me to do something I don't want to do, which hurts me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point? Because I know you're a generous person, so it's hard. I'm sure, like me, it's hard for me to say no. I think I don't listen. It doesn't affect me being generous, but I think people, especially when you have a little bit of fame or you have a little bit of exposure, the take is a lot. And I didn't want to I was kind of becoming that person that was like the way to deal with it was to isolate. And then that's kind of weird, right? So you have to manage it a bit where you really understand the situations you're in. You really curate the people that are around you. You surround yourself with people that are good, kind, and protective. And then you just move forward in that way. Yeah. But it's hard. It's hard because you're right. You need to learn when to get out. You're very good at judgment. I think you know how to get out of a situation before it goes wrong or south. You know when you're not happy with the crew. And that advice is very sage advice. And I think we will all benefit if we take our life a little bit more seriously in that regard. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Follow your intuition. Your intuition is a beautiful thing. If you ever worry about intuition, watch the way animals react to things. That's a pure reaction.
Yeah.
That's because they're surviving. That's not because they're mad at you. That's not because they don't like you. It's because they're like, wait a second, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, wait a minute.
And we don't have to be that aggressive, but pretty much we kind of know when it's not right? We all get that feeling like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yes, of course. And speaking of also, you write in the book, you talk about how your journey, how you started Housewives, and that did you always want to do it, or because you talk a little bit about
I didn't always want to do it. It wasn't until after Richard died, and that I was friends with all the girls. Yeah. It wasn't until after Richard passed, and that Hannah went to college that I felt the freedom to do it, and it just didn't fit into my life before that. But you'd always see me in the background. I'd go to all the parties. Jill, I would be at Jill's party and Ramona's renewal. And because I was friends with, well, still I'm friends with all those girls. That's the thing that was great about Housewives for me when I was on it. We were all really friends.
I know. And you guys had this real friendship that you could tell often on camera. There's so
and
much history.
I think that makes a big difference.
You do. In general, you're saying in reality shows in general, the cast should really have history, right? I mean, to really.
Well, for us, it did. It just because it wasn't like work. You would just, Sonia's not that different off camera than she is on camera. Ramona's not that different on camera as she is off camera. Dorinda Medley's not that different on camera than she is off camera. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously it's amped up and it's sort of like intensified, but it's the personalities.
Totally. I mean, did you feel? When you were on pause, when you got the news, did you feel like, oh, this is a relief in a way because now I get to do some things that I need to do for Dorinda? Or...
You do, because it's a lot of pressure, but there's always FOMO. All these women that that are put on pause are like, I'm so happy I didn't miss it. It was that. It's just not true. It's something that becomes very deeply ingrained in your life. It is intense. It's like going to college. When you graduate from college, you're so happy to get out of college. Woo! And then fall comes and you hear everybody's going back. And there's that little bit of like, oh, I wish I were going back to college. And that's human nature. I don't think it's bad to say, yeah, of course. I got lucky in a way because it was COVID. So, it wasn't like some big season of fun filming and stuff. So I felt like I had a little less FOMO because the whole world was still in COVID.
Yeah.
So that was lucky. But yes, of course, it's like anything. I look back on my time at Housewives as very, very fondly.
I was going to ask you, do you have a favorite memorable moment? Do you have
the make it nice moment, the clip, the laughing, the camaraderie, the idea that 50-year-old women are spending 5 days a week together, 12 hours a day sometimes. It's an experience you'll never forget.
Yeah.
And as a whole, Mike Lilly were the things I'm happy with. Sure, Mac Lilly, the experience was great. And I think I grew tremendously. And I don't care what these housewives say, it gives you incredible platforms.
Yes. You've done incredible things for charity. You yourself, right?
Charity, opportunities, people you meet. It's just never undervalue the power of Bravo.
That's beautifully said. Yes. And listen, everybody loves you too. I think that's why everyone's like, we want Dorinda back. And sometimes I'm like, hey guys, you want to check with her if she wants to come back, as an outsider. It's almost like everyone, because we love you. We miss you. You know what I mean? We miss watching you.
Well, I don't know.
You can get the book, guys, because you do have it's like you have the coffee in the book. I got to tell you, I'm going to read it. Dorinda, can I tell you, I'm reading it the third time before my comedy show because I get nervous and this could help me because you can look at chapters and remind yourself, okay, wait, make it nice. Dorinda Medley says, don't give up hope. All your obstacles that you've overcome, that's like amazing inspiration.
Well, I love that. And I wanted it to be sort of an advice guide. Like my dream would, if I could do anything, I would do like a radio show where I just talk to people and they called in and I just problem solve. To me, that's like a dream come true. I love that kind of stuff. Like I love talking to people. I love talking people through things. I love problem solving. I love giving advice. I really do. Like I was thinking, if I could do anything, that's what I would do. I really would. Not podcast. I'd get too nervous trying to get people every week, but just going on a radio show. Like they used to have an NPR and stuff where people just call them and be like, I just broke up with my boyfriend, blah, 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 blah. I would be great at that. The soft music in the background.
Yes, if anybody's listening, guys, listen up. Or even Radio Andy, because it's Sirius XM. I don't know if but you never know. Like having your own channel. You never know. You never put it out there. It's happening. I always say it's happening.
Hey, listen, I'm going to have to go because I have to go. I have a 1:15 in Midtown.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, yes, we're wrapping. We're going to wrap up. Yeah,
we're going to wrap it up because it's pouring with rain. So
I know. I'm so sorry. Yes, 2 more
questions. No,
it's
not you. I just realized because Bella just popped in.
And also, by the way, if I can ever take you out to dinner to celebrate you, I would love to.
I would love it too. I'm not really back in the city fully, but you know what? I'm going to Saratoga tomorrow. But when I get back, we should definitely do that. Don't you feel like the city's sort of half back, half not?
Yes. That's why I was like, I'll meet you. Like whenever you want, we can do it in the city. I can even come out. You still have Bluestone Manor, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do I ever?
And that, I was going to ask you, do you want to talk to us a little bit? Because you talk about it in the book about Bluestone Manor, and you're also turning it into an Airbnb, I heard, possibly.
If that's already done.
Oh.
I did that. It was a 2 one-night stands. It was amazing. It was just a one-off. It was like a promotional thing.
That's amazing.
Now, and that was great. It was great. But I mean, I think no, that was more of just like we did it for charity for Ronald McDonald House. And it was just 2 12-hour sort of stints at Bluestone Manor. It was so good. They had like so many people wanting to do it. And you know, they were like, we want to do, I would do it again, but you know, not right now. It's my home.
Right.
Bluestone Manor is my home.
It's your home. And we love it. We can't wait. The audience does want to know, do you think you would return back to Housewives if you were?
Listen, I don't even know if they know when they're going to return.
True.
And I think it's just that there's so much going on. I just think it depends on, what it depends on? Not me. It depends on what direction they're going to go in. You know, they may go into a whole new direction now. And there may not be a place like, they may just have, we just don't know, right? If we saw anything, we saw that it was a difficult year, and they're not filming right now. I don't think they're going to film until later, like 2022. So maybe they're just changing the direction. I don't particularly see myself on a cast with a bunch of 36-year-olds.
That's honest, though. Because if you were, I think you would put all of them into check. Like, listen.
Well, I just think that's a different vibe for the show.
Right.
Would I visit? Could I stop in? Could they come to Bluestone Manor? Could I be like, but I think if, just depends on the direction they're going to choose to go in. But, you would never say never.
That's a great answer.
Believe me, if Bravo wanted me back, they'd get my number and call me back.
I love it. Well, we did hear that the All-Star show of Housewives. Is there anything you can tease or confirm, or are those just rumors? We don't know yet.
We do know, but I'm not saying anything.
Oh, okay. So then we don't know anything. Sorry.
And if you learned anything about me from this year on pause, I do not talk.
I know. And if it happens, we would love to see you. If it doesn't, we still know. Listen, Dorinda, I know you have such a journey. I'm telling you, you're going to call me and you're going to be like, guess what? I got a radio show. It's happening.
Funny. Oh my God, we should put it out to the world now, and you'll be the first one I call. So, I mean, that's it.
That would be amazing.
Well, listen, okay. I'm going to go.
Thank you so much, Dorinda. Where can everybody follow you? Where can everybody buy this book right now?
Make it nice. Sold. Make it nice. And I'm going to be in Saratoga on Thursday night if you want to come see me.
Amazing. And they can follow you at Dorinda Medley.
At Dorinda Medley, right across the platform, at Dorinda Medley Instagram, at Dorinda Medley Twitter and Facebook. And you have been amazing as usual. And I hope I see you soon. Hi, everyone. It's Dorinda Medley. And I just did the best podcast with Chanel Omari, Chanel in the City. Because we make it nice? I think we made it nice for iHeartRadio.